All right, welcome back to the Top 25 Voter Pod. With me is my fellow Top 25 poll voter, John Werner. John, how are we doing?
Oh, I'm doing awesome, Brice. And hey, really good idea on the hat. I've used that method before.
Yeah, I'm hiding a little bit of bedhead before I go play some basketball, but yeah, so let's talk some basketball. The Baylor women Wednesday night snapped a 2-game losing streak with an impressive 69-48 win over Kansas State at the Ferrell Center. You know, as I said, they break a 2-game slide. What does Nicki Collen's team need to do to kind of keep this momentum going?
Well, I think the fact that Jamie Asbury had a good game is a really good sign because I think they probably need her scoring, at a good rate. Yeah, I haven't watched them a lot the last week, but it just looks like, if they can get balanced scoring inside out, that's going to help a lot. Yeah, I'll just hand this over to you, Brice.
So Jamie certainly was a key. She was coming off of a 1-for-12 game against West Virginia, and she and Jaden Owens in the West Virginia game were a combined 2-for-18.
Ooh.
And you just you can't have that. I mean, Sarah Andrews has been really good all year for Baylor, but I mean they're pretty balanced as a scoring team, and so they need players like Jamie Asbury and Jaden Owens to hit shots, and probably Jamie more so than Jaden. Jaden's more of a facilitator. But yeah, that was good for Baylor to see Jamie break out. And she put up 18. She hit 4 of 8 from 3. And she is certainly capable of shooting like that. As big as her scoring was last night, I thought her defense was maybe even bigger.
Mm-hmm.
She's an undersized guard. She's only 5'5". She was guarding a 6-foot Gabby Gregory for Kansas State, who came in as tied for the Big 12 lead in scoring, and Jamie just got after her. And, Gabby Gregory shot 4 for 19. And it was interesting to hear they know each other. They were both from Tulsa. And so they've been playing against each other since middle school.
Wow.
And Jamie did a great job. She also did say after the game, I'm not sure I want that challenge again. Somebody else can guard her when we go to K-State. But defense to me, as much as like Jamie's breakout offensive game or whatever, that is what Baylor needs to hang its hat on. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it was a staple of Kim Mulkey's teams for many, many years. And it was really good in Baylor's 3-0 start to the Big 12. And then, they suffer a couple of close losses to Oklahoma State and West Virginia. And within those games, you could see the defensive breakdowns. You could see it happening, and that can't happen. I mean, if the league's too competitive, they've got to have a consistent defensive effort every time out. So meanwhile, the Baylor men, Scott Drew's team, went on the road to Lubbock and got a good win to even its record at 3-3 in the Big 12. Two of those 3 wins on the road at West Virginia and Tech. So what do you feel like the key to the turnaround for the Bears has been?
Yeah, well, they're definitely playing better defense. I mean, Tech had a pretty good shooting night, but before that, Baylor had held Oklahoma State to 38%. Yeah, I would also say rebounding's been a big key. They lead the Big 12, and I think they have like a +5 rebounding margin for the year. So they lead the Big 12, which is a little surprising because they're not a really big team, but their guards rebound really well. Keontae George is a very good rebounder. Adam Flagler is a good rebounder. So those guys really help in that area. And I would say the other factor would be, I think Keontae is taking better shots now. He's not forcing as many. When he's on, Baylor's been doing a good job. His teammates have been doing a good job getting the ball to him. Let's see. This last game, he went 8 for 15 against Tech, 10 for 18 against, West Virginia. And against Oklahoma State, I think he only took 8 shots, but he wasn't on. He realized he wasn't on, so he's really getting the ball to his teammates. So I think that's a big key for him to play more within the offense. And I think they've got it going. They're starting to figure some things out, what they can do well, what they need to do better. They got Oklahoma on the road on Saturday. So I think they have a pretty good shot to win that game too.
Yeah. I think you hit on it. One of the problems for Baylor when they've lost some games, a lot has been on the defensive end and been maybe just some toughness.
Yeah.
We've talked about the missing piece of Everyday John. I think they would love to have him in the lineup, but it is what it is in terms of that. You have to go forward with the roster that you have. I started to ask a question to you. To me, it always feels like when Adam Flagler has a good game, Baylor seems to do well.
Yeah.
And so I was about to ask you, without you having done any research on it, what kind of, his stats look like in wins versus losses. And while you were answering that last question, I just sort of looked it up. And honestly, he's been pretty consistent all year, wins or losses, in terms of his scoring and assists and stuff. And he only had 9 points and 5 assists in that game at Tech. I just remember watching a little bit of it, and I felt like at least that 3 that he hit, it felt like it was a big shot at the time. I don't remember, but so maybe my theory is not as founded as I think it is, but it just seems like, Keontae is probably going to get his.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can get that secondary score, whether it's Flagler or somebody else, that's big for Baylor.
Yeah. Adam, he's been on most games. He wasn't really on against Tech, but he did have 5 assists, like you mentioned. So he was running the offense pretty well too. When both Keontae and Adam are both hot, they're pretty hard to beat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's been a lot of games where they haven't both been hot, but they don't necessarily need them both really hot to at least be in the game.
Yeah.
But they've got to be doing other stuff too. They've got to be, dishing the ball, rebounding, which both of those guys do really well. So, I think they've kind of got it going right now.
An offshoot of that question. Obviously that national championship team 2 years ago was centered around 3 pretty incredible guards.
Yeah, say the least.
In Jared Butler, Davion Mitchell, Maceo Teague. Those guys will be legends at Baylor for a long, long time. Where does this sort of 3-headed guard monster with Keontae George, Adam Flagler, and I guess LJ Cryer, kind of, how do they stack up
against those guys?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think they're as good.
Collectively?
Yeah. I mean, all 3 of those guys were, let's see, Jared, I guess, was a junior. The other 2 guys were seniors. So those guys, they weren't just consistent shooters. I mean, Davion Mitchell was an incredible 3-point shooter as a senior. I mean, he got so much better. And and defensively, those guys are nails, especially Davion. And he kind of sparked the other guys to kind of, live up to his level. These guys, you know, I think Flagler's the only real good defender among those three. I think Keontae, I think he's just still kind of learning, how to play defense at the college level. Now he does hustle. He will take a charge. So I don't think it's a matter of not wanting to. Now I think LJ's got a way to go as a defender. I think he's probably, the worst among those three. But as far as shooting, they're pretty comparable shooting wise. All three of those guys can really shoot. I just think it's more on the defensive end.
Yeah, obviously Davion was National Defensive Player of the Year, so that's a pretty big feather in that group's cap. I will say, I do feel like in terms, and we've talked about this on the pod, but in terms of ceiling, Keontae George's ceiling is, it's like the Sistine Chapel. I mean, it's way up there. And he's a guy I feel like, to a certain extent, I think Baylor's March run could hinge on, just how far Keontae could carry him.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think they could be pretty good by March. I mean, he's going to get a lot better. Jalen Bridges is definitely playing a lot better than he has. So those two guys will help. I think they're, Scott's really good about like figuring out his team, what they can do well. And that's why I think they often tend to improve during the year, because he'll make some adjustments that will fit that team. And I think we're starting to see that right now.
Yeah, no doubt. Back to the women for a second. So Baylor fell out of the top 25 this week for the first time since 2004, 19 years. That was a pretty remarkable 365 week run, ranked in the poll. I must admit, so just behind the scenes here, and John will obviously relate to this, we do what's called a game bug for our stories that just sort of lists, time, place, TV, records, all that thing. It was weird to do a game bug this week and not put a ranking next to Baylor. That was strange. I hadn't done that. So, just how mind-blowing is that streak to you? And do you think we'll see anything like that again, given the increasing parity in women's basketball?
I don't think we will. I mean, that's almost 19 years. I mean, that's incredible.
It really
I know UConn and Tennessee women had longer streaks, but I think those days are kind of gone now. And even though women's basketball hasn't reached men's parity, it's definitely gotten a lot better. And and I think programs are just going to have a little, downtime maybe. Coaching changes, can affect that. But yeah, I mean, it's mind-boggling.
It really is. So you mentioned Tennessee and UConn. Tennessee's streak was 565 weeks. UConn is 556, and UConn's, incidentally, Tennessee's is not, but UConn's is active.
Okay.
And so they're like 9 weeks behind Tennessee in terms of the all-time record. Baylor was third on that list. So that's pretty impressive. And I do feel like UConn will probably pass Tennessee, I would think, maybe early next season, 9 more weeks of polls. Okay. And, I don't think Gino Auriemma's program's going anywhere anytime soon. They're pretty consistent. That said, UConn's in the Big East, and it's not a Power 5 conference. And let's say maybe, in this next round of conference realignment that UConn gets finally, in another league or something. Could they eventually have a year kind of like Baylor's having right now, where they're pretty good, but maybe not, top 10 or whatever? Sure, that could happen.
Yeah,
I like we said, I think the parity is here, and so certainly it was an incredible run. I wrote it in a column this week. I mean, Baylor could get right back in the poll next week.
sure.
They're the equivalent of 26th right now. They're the top team receiving votes. They beat Kansas State last night. They will play number 25 Texas on Sunday. You beat Texas, I would think you're right back in it. I
Yeah.
mean, so I feel like this team is a top 25 team. I just feel like there's going to be some ups and downs,
Mhm.
and
Well, the Big
certainly,
12's gotten better.
yeah, the Big 12 has gotten a lot better. Um, there's not really a lot of gimmies there. So, yeah, we'll see how it plays out. I think they'll be in the top 25 by March, by season's end, in terms of going into the tournament. What will really be interesting is if they're in the top 16. They've been used to hosting
Yeah.
in the women's tournament, and so they might have to go on the road,
Uh,
which would be a little bit different, but we'll see.
you think they'd go on the road to LSU?
Could happen. I saw the latest projections did not have them going to Baton Rouge,
Okay.
just because of the seeding, I think. But boy, that would be be a lot. It'd be fun to watch, honestly. So
It would for us.
probably
And-
less so for Nicki and Kim.
right. Exactly.
Let's talk about K-State. So really good win. They pulled off a thrilling 92-90 overtime victory over Kansas this week, Tuesday night in Manhattan. The Wildcats are 5-1 now. They are tied for the Big 12 lead with Kansas and Iowa State. So that night I tweeted out a little gif, whatever you want to say, and I had live look at National Coach of the Year, and I showed a picture. I showed a picture of the breakfast drink Tang,
All right.
and so that's my question. Is he the front runner? Is Jerome Tang the front runner for Coach of the Year?
Oh, I don't think there's any question about it. They came from unranked, picked ninth in the Big 12. Yeah. I mean, they're probably going to be in the top 10 next week, especially if they win their next game. But yeah, when you beat somebody like Kansas,
in your first try.
And, overtime, a really exciting game. And I don't know if you saw the end of that game.
I did.
The K-State fans were chanting FKU. And Jerome gets up on the table and tells them to stop that. We want this to be more about us and, just what we're doing and the joy we're feeling. So he changed it to KSU, which I thought, wow, what a really classy move to do that. And, just maybe kind of change things a little bit, not make it just all about, oh, well, we just beat Kansas. Well, I think to Jerome, that's a big win, but, they've got a lot of, a lot more wins they're going to need to stay at this level. So, he's just done a remarkable job. And I didn't think they'd be this good, this quick, because they didn't have a lot coming back. They had Marquise Noel back, but most of the rest of the guys are transfers. But boy, he's really put the team together.
I think it speaks to his personal relationship skills. I mean, that he's able to mold a team as quickly as he has. You mentioned his comments after the game. He also told the fans, look, this is your one. You get one court storming. After this, we expect to win. And I like that too, he's building this idea of a winning culture is to be expected. Do you think Kansas would storm the court if they beat K-State?
No.
No. They would hardly storm the court for anyone because they're Kansas and they just expect to kind of roll the ball out and win. Well, that's what Tang wants to build there. And I also appreciate that he wants to do it in a classy and Christian way. I mean, that's
Sure.
who Jerome Tang is as a person. So yeah, it's kind of funny that he brought out the swear jar basically.
Well, if they clinch the Big 12 title on their court, I'd say, Jerome, just get out of the way because they're coming down.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw the video, but there was one K-State fan in a purple t-shirt, some, young, skinny college student who they might want to get him out for football spring drills and test his 40 time, because as soon as the clock hit triple zeros, that guy was at center court like, I mean,
Wow.
you should go search the video. It is
Yeah.
pretty impressive. This guy, he was waiting and he was pouncing, to run out on the court as fast as he could. It was impressive.
It's probably like his 7th year in college and he's been waiting for this.
It's been raring to go.
Right.
But yeah, it's cool to see Jerome Tang do his thing. You'll have a column kind of talking a little bit more about what he's done this season. Obviously was a huge invaluable part to what Baylor did for a long time. And so it's nice to see him, do it in the head coach's office, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And and I thought it's cool that K-State took a chance on hiring an assistant, even though he's a longtime assistant who had been with a very successful program. A lot of schools, they'll just like retread head coaches. That's especially at this level.
Mm-hmm.
They'll probably figure, well, a coach who hadn't been a head coach, he probably needs some experience, maybe at a mid-major or something. But man, wow, what a great hire for K-State.
No doubt. Cool. Well, Baylor men go to Oklahoma this weekend. Correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And as mentioned, the women will be at home on Sunday against the Longhorns. Always a fun battle. To me, probably the best Big 12 women's basketball rivalry since A&M left the conference. I think A&M and Baylor had it kind of wrapped up for a number of years back in the days of Gary Blair versus Kim Mulkey, but Texas and Baylor, I mean, I think that's a fun one. And Nicki Collen kind of challenged the crowd, said that they need 30 to 40% more people than they've been getting
for
the Texas game. So we'll see how that turns out. But anyway, yeah, should have more to talk about next week.
Okay, Brice.
All right. See ya.